Not a joke. Kind of hilarious. 4chan published a book, and my photography is in it.
Starting over.
Did you pause it?
What do you use to stream this? OBS?
OBS, yeah.
Alright. I guess that's enough. We can just stop it right here.
Alrighty. Welcome y'all to the stream. We decided to kick this off with some anime, a little departure from the hipster music Classy usually chooses. Speaking of, you guys were talking about weeb trash before the stream. What's up with like the whole like anime? Like anime used to be like such a underground thing, but like seems like more than ever like anime is kind of in the mainstream nowadays.
Well, that all depends on what you want to talk about for that. Because do you want to talk about specifically the proliferation of anime into the mainstream, or the effects of anime on mainstream, or even just how the people that were the backbone of anime have been betrayed by its transition to mainstream and have gone deeper into stranger bits of anime to begin with? That all depends. What do you want to talk about?
I wasn't trying to take it that deep. So you're saying the creators of anime have been betrayed by it going mainstream? Is that what you said?
Not necessarily the creators, but some of the people that are the reason for anime being, like, people who laid the groundwork for the popularity of anime have been betrayed by its popularity now that it's become mainstream to the point that it has. And, well, I mean, we've reached the point where we've got, what's that fucking Cartoon Network series that's about the fucking gems? Steven Universe. There's people legitimately attempting to call Steven Universe anime now.
Steven Universe?
Steven Universe. Apparently Steven Universe is a fucking anime nowadays.
Oh,
and
so is Hank Hill, King of the Hill, and Shrek.
Yeah.
And Avatar.
If Steven Universe is an anime, might as well start calling Hank Hill an anime.
Anime technically it's like has to be made in Japan, right?
That all depends, because there's Korean anime, there's Chinese anime.
Oh, okay. Like Asian then.
That all depends on where you want to split hairs.
Yeah, it's actually a big fight.
It is a big fight. It's a giant fucking fight. It's not necessarily a good fight, and it's not necessarily a bad fight. It's like, well, I mean, you look out, it's raining, you see a bunch of puddles, and, well, it turns out we're the ones swimming in those puddles, and we're saying they're not just puddles here.
Okay.
So, it all depends. How deep do you want to go? Are you wearing a scuba mask or not? Do you have an airline?
I wasn't trying to go too deep on it. Something that intrigues me, I wanted to play, I guess, this little music video reminded me of it, but
I don't give a fuck.
there was a video here. I'm gonna pause it before it
Remember
plays. So hopefully there's not an ad playing. But like there's something going on in Japan right now where I don't know if anime has anything to do with it, or I don't know. Japanese culture is like so different than us, and
Yes.
it seems like there's like a crisis in Japan apparently because like almost half the population is like virgins, and like a lot of people they're like straying away from like normal relationships, straying away from like normal couples and stuff. There's a lot of like their fertility rates are like dropping by a lot, and like less and less people are like getting together, and they like to say it's because of, I guess, people like focusing on their careers, or I don't know what the real reason is, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, for starters, it's a little bit overhyped because the garbage is basically, for starters, it's a means for them to propagate. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a means for them to, well, for them is the wrong word. It's a means for outside sources to put migration pressures on Japan by saying, hey, look, your birth rate's dropping. Hey, look, you need migration. Migration is good. Migration is the future. And they're like, no, we want no part of this. Well, for starters, it's a little bit overblown, and it's a lot misunderstood. Because you also have to understand that, like, for the most part, it's not necessarily a simple issue, but it's not necessarily a complex issue. And there's a lot of people lying about it.
So you're saying it's like bullshit? That's not true?
No, it's not that simple, and it's not that complex. I mean, for starters, there's a lot of fucking weirdness, and there's a lot of everything that you can see in Japan is just fucking beautiful groundwork for a confirmation bias. It's like, oh, hey, look, the women are trash, they're not marrying the men. It's like, oh, hey, look, the men are trash, and they're not worthy of the women. Oh, hey, look, Japan is dying, and they're not actually going to fucking continue as a country. And it's like, stop all of that. Because all of this is dumb, and it's not actually the actual problem here. And the answer is I don't necessarily specifically know the actual problem, or if there actually is an actual problem, but it's clearly not what's being fucking shouted at. Because, well, I mean, like, when Japan admits 3 Islamic migrants, and within a week, 2 of them are convicted of gang rape,
that's a good story.
it's like, oh boy.
Wait, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that story. What happened?
So basically, in the height of the migrant crisis, basically Japan did their part, quote unquote. They admitted 3 Islamic migrants, and within a week, 2 of them were convicted of gang rape.
Damn.
I could be wrong about this. I could be wrong about the numbers, actually. I'm going to double check the numbers on that.
Okay.
Because the irony of it is absolutely hilarious in a disturbing and dark humor way.
So you guys, speaking of which, you guys, Classy, and you seem to focus and talk about like the alt-right and the ethno-state, and Japan seems to be like something that like the alt-right seems to hold up as a prime example of like a country or a land or an area where they're homogenous, like, you know, they stick to themselves, they don't allow much immigration in.
Well, so
go ahead.
So it all depends on what you're looking for here, because I'm not necessarily an alt-right person. I don't believe in an ethno-state. I don't believe in trying to create an ethno-state where it should not belong. I don't believe in forcing people. I don't believe in forcing what you think is a good idea, because a good idea does not require force.
Sure.
The thing is, as it is right now, Japan is a high trust culture. Japan is a high trust civilization because of how, not necessarily specifically how ethnically pure they are. It's not specifically to the how pure they are and how much of a monoculture they are. It's not specific to that, but it a little bit ties into it because of how high trust they are. They are afraid of being ripped off by outsiders, all of them, everyone, for everywhere. So and they don't want to look bad to their peers. And so what ends up happening is, well, for starters, you end up with really strange and interesting things if you actually went there, because, well, if you go to a bar in Japan, there will be seats, empty seats, and there will be a purse and a cell phone saying, "This is my chair, please don't take my chair." Because of how high trust their society is. I mean, there are no garbage cans all over the streets. Why? Because nobody litters anyways. People don't throw their trash on the ground. They put it back in their pockets. They take it home with them, and they throw their trash out with them at home. And
isn't it true that their trash cans have like fucking Wi-Fi in, or is that like bullshit?
The answer to that is I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Anybody can look that up. And that's not necessarily something that I want to talk about here. But
no worries.
The other thing to look at is they really don't like other people coming to their country and shitting up their country. They also have so little crime that anytime a person gets on a bicycle, the police will come and harass you and say, "Do you own this bicycle?" Because they're trying to catch literally anybody who might be stealing a bicycle. I'm not joking. That's because
oh, go ahead.
They've reached a point where either the crime that is happening is kept under wraps because they're paying off the cops to not get caught, and they're not interfering in the society at large. So at that point, why bother, aside from the fact that, yes, they are still committing a crime, but if it's not affecting people to the point where they're reporting it, and it's not affecting anybody else, then why investigate it? So what ends up happening is you end up with, well, we still have, there has to be crime happening, let's go find the crime. And, well, they still have the same problem that every other country has. It's like, there were no crimes reported today. Was there no crime today? The answer to that is go find the crime anyways, and if you can't find any, make some up. And that's what ends up happening. You've got cops investigating non-existent bike thieves, and eventually when somebody does report something, there's a massive overblown representation of force.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, then, I mean, from everything you're saying, isn't that like a reason to believe in an ethno-state if, you know, they're...
If you have a confirmation bias in favor of that, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's say you don't have a confirmation bias. No, I'm just saying.
I'm saying these things, they are factually in nature, because these things are factual.
Is it okay if I...
Just a different country.
Can I just say something real quick? If you hear click sounds, that's my controller. I finally got a controller I can use on my computer so I can enjoy games better.
I mean, as it is, as a Canadian, I mean, I can remember when my fucking country used to be a high trust society. I mean, I remember when I didn't lock my goddamn doors because my neighborhood used to be a nice fucking neighborhood.
Yeah. So you live in Canada, right?
Yes. Canada is no longer the same fucking Canada it used to be. Which is...
Are you, like, conservative?
No, I'm not. Stephen Harper was a goddamn fucking idiot.
He's your version of George Bush, basically.
Yes, or worse. He was worse than Bush.
Oh wow. Worse
so you're not conservative or liberal?
Neither.
Okay.
I don't have any. I have a fucking slight libertarian leaning because I understand what the purpose of state power should be and what it's best used for, and this is clearly not how that is because it just feeds corruption.
I gotcha. So why do you think? I mean, I guess alt-righters, they would say Canada isn't a high trust society anymore because of multiculturalism. I mean, would you?
Well, so for starters, there was a very well done study, actually. I'm going to double check who that is because there's another YouTuber that did a very good write up on this study.
Oh, it's not
her name-
Faith Goldie, is it?
No, it's not, actually. It's Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. She did a very good narrative. Well, it's an overarching narrative video of this study. By this guy who did this. I can never remember his name, and the way that I can remember the name of the study is by looking it up through Blonde of the Belly of the Beast. Because, for starters, the guy who did the study was, he was very deep lefty, and he was very deep into diversity is good, diversity is amazing. There's literally no downside to diversity. And so he set out to do this study to prove it. And as any real scientist and any person who believes in science more than any other ideological supremacy, well, when he did the study and came up with results that were counter to what he expected, because he expected his study to show things that aligned with his ideological supremacy, that's low-level supremacies instead of science, well, he was like, shit, I'm wrong. And I don't like this. And so he sat on it for, I think, almost a year before releasing the results of his study, saying that, well, I need a better way to word this. And the answer is, well, he did find a better way to word it, but it still doesn't erase the underlying data in that, well, he was wrong. Because it turns out that specific types of diversity, they have a corollary negative impact on trust in societal standards.
Okay.
I'm going to look this up and source it.
No worries.
That's just, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there are some things worth changing, and because I just... My biases are specifically towards science. I want to see more science done, and I want to see science done better. I do not know what that is yet, and I do not care what that is. I just... If I have two conflicting opinions, it doesn't matter as long as more science gets done because of that.
Sure. Now, why do you, I guess before we go, we'll go back to the alt-right question, but I guess I want to react with the audience to this video. That's why I was bringing up like the fertility rates and everything, because, you know, we're heading into, I mean, Japan seems to be the forerunner, and like they seem to always be ahead when it comes to technology and how technology is going to shape our future. And I think like with technology now, because people are going to be able to like have, you know, companion robots, sex robots, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they already sell like high-end sex dolls that, I mean, they don't do anything, but soon we're robots and shit. This is a new story. I just wanted to get your guys' reaction and kind of just show to the audience this, it's a Japanese man who marries a hologram. So let's take a look at this real quick.
He's in love with an operating system named Samantha.
Oh, let me start it.
Movie Her, a lonely writer falls in love with an operating system named Samantha.
I remember this one.
This Japanese man has now taken it to the next level and married a hologram in real life. Akihiko Kondo walked down the aisle with a virtual reality singer Hatsune Miku doll.
Oh, no.
The ceremony cost the 35-year-old $17,600. His wife wakes him up every day, tells him to get ready for bed, and turns off the lights. Akihiko has been living with the floating, talking $2,800 desktop device since March.
本当は結婚式とかやりたいなと思っている方がいらっしゃるはずなんですよ。そういう方々の背中を押したいっていう意味合いもあって結婚式をやりました。
Akihiko withdrew from real-life relations after being bullied by female superiors 10 years ago.
必ずしもこう男女が結ばれてなんで子供を産んで育ててっていうようなそのテンプレートな結婚幸福の形に縛られたものが必ずしも幸せだとは限らないわけじゃないですか。いろんな愛の形幸福の形があってはしかるべきだと私は思っていますので。
In Japan, the percentage of never married people aged 50 and up hit a record 23% for men and 14% for women.
So that's what they're saying too, is that a lot of people, they're not in Japan, especially they're not marrying, never marrying is what they want to say. So yeah, I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on freaking dudes marrying holograms?
Well, that all depends because, I don't know. How old are you?
How old what?
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. All right. So, do you remember about 18, 15 years ago where everybody was freaking out about gay marriage? Specifically the religious conservatives?
Sure.
Okay, well, so the religious conservatives at the time, somewhere between 18 to 15 years ago, they were freaking out at the time. And it's like, oh, if we're gonna let the gays get married, I mean, what's next? People are gonna marry children. People are gonna marry dogs. People are gonna marry their toaster. That was literally the argument at the time. Who would have thought that? Turns out they might have been correct because.
Well, of course.
The toaster's the closest.
There literally are people who have married a toaster. Literally are people who have married a dog, and now we've also got somebody who wants to marry a hologram. There's also other people that have married different video game characters. I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong.
How do you correlate
that's up to
that
them.
with same-sex marriage, though?
Well, because the people who were against that were also against same-sex marriage. Because when you make it to the point where you are forcing a church to admit that, well, actually, so I'm going to preface my statement on my preference for this because I don't think the government should have any acceptance of any sort of marriage because that's just an integration of church into state because there is no good reason for a state to have any sort of understanding of what a marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reasonable way to sidestep the entire thing. It's like
libertarian view.
Because if you want to go get gay married, go fund a gay church, and then there you go. You can go get gay married in your gay church, and there you go.
There are gay churches, actually.
Yes, yes, there are.
Do that.
I'm okay with that. I'm not necessarily in agreement with the fact that there can be a legal civil union between a man and a toaster.
I think we all can agree that it's just like the state should not be involved in marriage at all.
Yes, because that is a semi-reasonable statement to make. And the question is, like, we've reached the point where it's like, I married a toaster. It's like, okay, is that like an actual toaster, or is that just somebody who identifies as a toaster?
If you marry a toaster, you should probably take a bath with your toaster, too.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if they only identify as a toaster, it's not that wrong.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, it is kind of like an argument. It's like, what good is marriage if it's like now it's changed to where, yeah, you can. We reacted to a story either last week or the week before, like people can marry themselves. I don't even know how that is even possible, but or like what is it?
What, you can do that now? What?
I mean, I don't know if you can legally do it, but like we were reacting.
It's legal, but yeah, some woman had a ceremony where she says she's gonna marry herself.
Yeah, she had like a ceremony and like.
Shit, I'm out of water. I'm a BRB.
Yeah, she had like a whole ceremony and had bridesmaids and stuff, and like apparently married herself, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, what good is like even the word marriage? I mean, it's like people can just get married to anything, and you know, now
See,
we
the
got
thing
people.
is, I'm not against that. But what I'm for is, so originally the intent of marriage was as a means to further socially entrench, what's the word I'm looking for? Pair bonding. Because what had happened is some people had figured out that, well, it turns out when a mommy and a daddy are both there for the raising of a child, you end up with a better child than somebody who was just raised by a single parent. And see, the problem is at the time, the only attribution that they had for that was, well, let's blame it on God. Because God is good and God is everything good, and that's not necessarily we have a better understanding of that now. And
Right.
here's my problem with all of this is because we have the tools to say that, oh yes, it's here is how much better it is for a mother and a father to stay together in pair bonding while raising their offspring. We understand it to the point where we can say how much it benefits the children. And so we've reached a point where it's like, well, it's not because God said so, because I said so, and because everybody has always done it this way. We've reached a point where it's like, I have sources for this. This is what makes a better world. And it's like, well, now we've got people that directly want to go against that because it hurts their feeling. Because they think that when somebody says, I have proof, here's how much better it helps raise children, how much of a better world we get to because we have better people living in it. They're like, oh, you're just saying that because God told you. Or you're just saying that because you hate things. Or you're just saying that because it doesn't allow me the power to ruin things that I want. And, well,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
has
know if that's the point.
and it has nothing to do with God. I mean, it just has to do with like tradition. You know, traditionally that's where you would have the best way to raise children, and it seems like postmodernism and like kind of like the current status quo of what they're teaching on TV and the media and shit is that they're trying to break down the family unit, and like that is, you know, like you said, like the numbers show that is what contributes to a lot of the problems in society in terms of crime, you know, people getting fucked up, you know, kids who are they don't grow up right, and then they become criminals, they become, you know, menaces to society.
The two largest factors in criminality are early childhood trauma and single parenthood. There are some people that believe that single parenthood in itself is an early childhood trauma.
Right.
They
Yeah,
are
I mean,
they are the two single largest driving factors in criminality that we know of that aren't genetic. There are some genetic factors for criminality. We don't necessarily know what they are. We haven't figured out a good way to pinpoint them. But we've got strange guesses, and the science is still out on that. We haven't narrowed it down yet. We believe that there are genetic signs for criminality. The problem with that is the main sources for this are the Chinese, and while it's entirely possible that they just want an excuse to murder a bunch of people and harvest their organs.
Yeah.
So, I
What?
don't know yet.
I don't know.
the Chinese-
I think the reason why there's crime is because of a lot of environmental factors, such as, you know, education and
So, actually, that's horrifyingly misquoted, misunderstood, and outright wrong.
really.
So, yes. So, early childhood trauma has a negative impact on your ability to be educated. It has a negative impact on your perspective in education. It has a negative impact on the process of education in you as a person.
Okay.
Single parenthood also has a negative impact on all of the above as well, because statistically speaking, single parent children do the worst in education.
Okay, but what do you think causes like single parenthood though? Like, you don't think that some communities here in the United States, they don't have an access to a decent education, so they just grow up with, whatever they learn around them.
So actually,
Culture.
So the
Maybe
data
it-
corroborates this because even in some of the highest ranked schools, like imagine you're in a school that it costs $500,000 a year to be in this school. Everybody used to get into Harvard and all this shit, and the students in these schools, they're the highest ranked in all the testing imaginable. All of the lowest ranked students in those schools, they come from single parent families. Yes,
Right.
that is how
my question is, what causes single parenthood? I don't think it's culture alone, though. I mean, there has to be, other things.
I'm not saying what causes single parenthood. I'm just saying that single parenthood causes crime and it causes bad schooling of children. It has a negative impact on the life of the single parenthood.
Okay, but like, what do you think causes like single parenthood? Do you think like these deadbeat dads, they just enjoy being a deadbeat dad? Like, you don't think like there's something, that could have affected them?
The answer to that is I don't know, because at that point there is with a statement that broad and with a question that broad, you cannot narrow it down to a single point.
Okay. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like,
it's tough.
I'm not saying single parenthood isn't a problem. It is a problem that causes other problems. But like how do I put this though? Like, how do you solve single parenthood? Do you just like go to these communities and say, hey, stop being a deadbeat dad? Like, you don't think like there are possible like institutional barriers for certain groups of people in the United States at least?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any barriers. I just think it's.
Really?
I just think it's our culture. I mean, I think it's our society, like, feminism. Feminism.
So what about the fact like certain communities don't get enough funding for their schools? So funding for schools is based on property taxes, and the fact the fact of the matter is that some poor neighborhoods, they're gonna have issues having good schools because they're gonna have a low property tax, whereas
it doesn't matter.
The richer neighborhoods have much higher property.
Well, if you look at
revenue, so they're able to fund for schools.
It's. I mean, that's. I don't think it has anything to do with it, because you look at like Mexican communities, for example. Mexican communities are very poor, very very poverty, as you would say it, but they still have a very strong family unit. So obviously, with the exception of the places in Mexico near the cartels and shit, as long as like those communities have a strong family unit, despite high poverty, there isn't that much crime. There isn't that much crime. It's exactly what Seraphis is saying. That's the factor is a failing of a family unit. Two parents in the household, single parent, is what's contributing to the high crime, because you don't have a dad, you don't have a mom and a dad to teach you the right things. Usually in the case, especially United States.
Okay, but my point is that what causes that? Like, do you think like these groups of people, they just enjoy committing these crimes and not being present in your child's life? Like, you don't
not that they enjoy it.
I mean, there's so many things. I mean, there's lack of access to healthcare, lack of access to nutrition, that's a lack of access to a decent education.
That's not causing the parent. That's not causing the parents to.
I want to attack a single point here, because you said lack of access to education, and what I'm saying is it's not specifically lack of access to education. I'm saying that
lack of access to
early childhood trauma, no matter what education you have access to, if you are a victim of early childhood trauma, it is going to have a negative impact on your education throughout the rest of your life.
Okay,
right.
Sure.
If you have access to the greatest education in the world, if you are a victim of early childhood trauma, it is going to have a negative impact on your ability to become educated. Your ability to become educated is going to have an impact on the rest of your life, and it's also going to make for a sizable factor in the desire of crime in your life.
Okay, but I'm saying like you can still fix that though with counselors, with therapy, Like there's so many things though, and also like you also have the drug war that affects like many black communities. You have like there's so many institutions.
Yes,
barriers that
this
can
is
happen.
a very large multivariate analysis.
Yeah.
There are many variables that are at play here. Many
Right.
very large.
Okay, but when you say it's like, oh, there might be a genetic predisposition to crime, you're
I'm not saying there's a genetic predisposition to
Okay.
crime. I'm saying there could be, and I don't know, and the science is still out yet because, for starters, nobody can actually do the science properly without getting fired. The other people that have done the science seemingly properly are the fucking Chinese, and I don't trust them one fucking bit because they just want an excuse to throw people in the goddamn organ grinder.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. To answer your question, Classy, what is causing, men to not, especially dad, usually it's dads. I mean, there are single dads out there, but usually it's single moms where the dad is leaving. I'm not exactly sure. It could be just our changing culture, our changing society in terms of what is acceptable for social norms.
Okay,
If you
but
think
I
about,
feel when you're
like,
saying that, you're saying that like, well, so that we don't have to do anything. We just have to just tell these communities to just get better.
That's not what I'm trying to
It's sort
say.
of an excuse
No.
not to implement better policies to like fix these neighborhoods, like better.
I never
policing.
I think that's a confirmation
money.
bias speaking.
I never think more money is
I'm
solving
not
the problem.
talking
That is
about
kind of
money though. I'm talking about
You
like
want-
using these.
using
Do you want
what?
to actually fix the problem, or do you want to think you're fixing the problem?
Okay, how to explain this?
like Seraphis is saying, is like no matter what, like you could have kids who have very high education still coming from single family, and that's causing the childhood trauma. And like I said, looking at
But why is it that
like
people
looking at
from-
specific,
But why is it that
looking at-
people from better neighborhoods are far less likely to come from a single parenthood household then?
why
Actually, the
is
better
that-
question is
You have two parents, meaning that's double the income.
yes.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah,
do you have
Because
two parents
staying
in the
together
first
as a
place?
family. Hold on. What you're
Because-
saying is staying together as a family means you have a higher income as a family, means you are immediately above the single parent family. Because, for starters, you have either double the income or the single income, but also the tax benefits, but also you have the benefit of somebody who you love and trust and is actually the fucking parent of the child, teaching that child half of their life, as opposed to single parent families where you've got somebody who is at work most of the day.
Right.
Their child is either at school most of the day and then blank, question mark, or in daycare the rest of the day.
Yeah,
And-
they're being raised by other people. The person that's gonna give the best the person that's gonna raise kids the best way are gonna be their parents, who loves their kids more than their parents. It's not gonna be a school. It's not gonna be the best teachers out there. It's gonna be a mom and a dad. And I think
But the thing is, I'm not denying that single parenthood, is the reason for a lot of these messed up children. I'm just saying, like, how did we get to this single parenthood though?
I just there's a multi. What I was trying to say before is that within the past, we've had so many societal changes within the past 50 years. I mean, going back to like the 1950s. I mean, people want to shit on like the 1950s and the 60s in terms of kind of having like that leave it to beaver family where the dad goes to work and the mom stays home taking care of the kids. In my opinion, I mean, and science can show this, is that is the best environment for a kid to be raised. And you had feminism come along and teach women that, it's not actually, women, the best lives isn't for you to be raising your family. The best lives is for you to be in the role of a man now and to also be working and climbing the corporate ladder. In my opinion, that has a lot to do with it in terms of why, we're seeing that. I mean, in terms of I was married I had a wife who
Well,
wanted to be
I don't see
more
how
man.
feminism is a cause when most people don't even classify themselves as feminism. Some of these communities, black communities,
It's not about. It's not
Latino
about.
communities are very conservative though. They have a strong religious presence, so I don't see how feminism is affecting them. Like you're gonna go to a
It's
freaking black
not.
neighborhood.
It
you're
doesn't
gonna
matter. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is feminism, classy. What I'm saying is feminism in terms of our society, of how the social norms, how people have been in terms of like culture, right? So now, for example, if a woman whether she classifies as a feminist or not, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying, you have social norms now where, you know, if a young woman says, I want to have kids and stay home and take care of my kids, you know, we'll have society and we'll have other people tell her like, oh no, that's wrong. You should go educate yourself and you should go climb the corporate ladder because that's what's going to make you happy. What I'm saying is social norms, you know, have affected our society, and that is what our social norms have changed, like
But
expectations of
women
society.
have been taking place in the workforce since World War II.
Yeah,
It
that's
all
what I'm saying.
depends on how you define that, because immediately after World War II, for the most part, a large percentage of them left the workforce because their spouse returned home from the war.
Sure.
There was a select few that didn't leave the workforce because, well, their spouse never came back from World War II and they had no other means of supporting themselves.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm just saying, if your thesis is that feminism or whatever, these social norms are, you know, affecting single parenthood and all these sort of things, so then why is it that most women aren't, you know, in the corporate ladder? Like how do I explain this?
More women are though. I mean, and then they're constantly saying like, "Oh, we need more
Why
fucking
is there only
engineers."
2 women in the top 700 companies out there in the world?
Right.
Because there's only 2.
Are you putting Kathy
There's
Griffin?
only 70 men.
So what you're saying
That's-
is...
That's
Wait.
not a lot of men.
So what you're saying is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're saying is
Kathy
society
Griffin,
is
Jordan
sexist.
Peterson debate.
Actually,
Yeah.
has everybody here heard that entire debate?
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
The entirety
Yes.
of
Yeah.
it? The entirety of it.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, I mean, and it's exactly that's what I'm saying. Kathy Griffin or whatever is Kathy Newman or whatever her name is. I don't know. You know, Kathy Newman. I don't know where that came from, Kathy Griffin, but Kathy Newman. I mean, she's exactly what the prototypical, you know, what the mainstream, what mainstream news and mainstream
Cutthroat
society,
woman.
yeah, like have been teaching women. It's like, oh yeah, like we need to
Climb the
teach.
ladder. Cut the
Yeah,
throats.
we need to teach women to, you know,
Be
now
more
it's
like men.
be more like men. Exactly. Be more like, you got to climb the corporate ladder. You got to, you know, you got to be more aggressive. You know, that's what I'm saying. It's like society is pressuring, like I said, young women who gravitate biologically to want to stay home, want to take care of kids. You know, if a girl comes out and says that, she's shamed. She says like, oh, what are you doing? Like, that's not right. You know, I think that has contributed to a lot of it. How do we fix it? I don't know. I think I don't know how we fix it. I mean, that's why we had these conversations.
Like, I'm actually offering a solution. I'm saying better access to healthcare, better access to nutrition, better access to education. Though there's also the fact that many black communities still have like lead paint within their houses, and that's been known to like cause permanent brain damage. I think that's definitely a huge problem, though. And you're just saying,
Actually,
you're gonna tell me it's not that big of a deal.
Actually, I'm going to say that statistically, early childhood trauma causes more brain damage than lead paint.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the black community, they're the ones suffering the most in terms of single parenthood. I mean, 70% of black communities are single parent, and I think that's what's causing most of the problems in the black community.
But what causes single parenthood, though?
I mean, in the black community, according to many black conservatives, they say is the welfare state. The welfare state basically pushed men out.
Black family.
Okay,
Yeah.
Then why is it Germany doesn't have the same issues, though? Germany is like a much bigger welfare state. The whole country's a welfare state. Sweden is a welfare state. Like, European countries are much bigger welfare state. They are more generous when it comes to, like, you know, these social programs in the United States. Our welfare state is a joke.
Because
Germany didn't have a problem with this until they started admitting mass hordes of black people.
Well, and two, Germany still has their families. In terms of United States, was actually rewarding women to the more kids you have, and the less support you have, the more money we'll give you, and then that's what has led to so many black men not being in the lives of the family. Thus,
Man, okay, but
when
that's like
somebody
a sort
can
of
reasonably
negative
make-
view on like African American women. It's
Hold
like,
on.
okay, I'm not gonna
Hold on.
make
Hold
best
on.
decisions for my child. I'm just gonna take
Hold
my
on.
welfare check. Like,
Hold on. When somebody in any area, in any country of the world, can reasonably make a reasonable cost-benefit analysis that says, do I make more money from the government being a single mother with 6 kids than I do being a married mother with 6 kids? And if the answer to that is no, well, then it turns out you're not going to get married.
exactly.
Because that's a large portion of what's
that's
happening
such a
in certain parts of the
negative view
U.S.
on people though. Like, you really think people like are that freaking evil that like I'm not gonna like give my child like a good father?
My
figure
ex-girlfriend
because of my
right
welfare
now is only working part-time because she cannot find a full-time job that gives her enough money for what she needs for medication. So she only works part-time because when she is working part-time, she doesn't make enough money, and she still qualifies for government assistance, and the government assistance pays for all her medication. There is a cost-benefit analysis that goes into her getting married to me, because if she gets married to me, presto chango, she doesn't get government assistance. She doesn't get her medication paid for.
But you don't get marriage benefits though in Canada though? Marriage.
The answer to that is it doesn't include medicine the same way that it does on government assistance.
That's
There
weird,
is
though, 'cause I
literally a
think that,
direct cost-benefit analysis that is negatively intervening with my
Basically,
with my relationship with this person.
Basically, the first world countries' governments are basically fucking their citizens over step by step with their governmental programs. And how
Yes,
they
and the same
handle
thing happens in Japan, because what ends up happening is the Japanese women, they fly to Taiwan and they go get laid by the Chinese guys, the rich Chinese guys.
Yeah, it's not inherently cruel the way you think about it, Classy. It's just the government. Like I said, I'm also very libertarian. Every time the government comes in to try to fix something, they're just fucking things up more.
No,
That's
no, we've actually have studies showing that like black literacy have raised since like, in the areas where the blacks are able to get education. So
Literacy doesn't have anything to do with kids, though.
Whoa, hold on one second here, because can you actually cite that?
That literacy doesn't equate to kids.
No, that black literacy rates are going up.
okay.
Can you cite that?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, you can.
I can go get like 3 or 4 different citations that directly tear that down with the early childhood trauma.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's just say, for argument's sake, that's true. I mean, I still don't think that proves that's like it's not just more education, Classy. At the end of the day,
I'm not saying it's more education.
it's the
more,
family unit.
A lot of other things, though.
Yeah, more money. Yeah, more government programs, which, like I said, I don't think is
overreach.
Yeah, government interference. The government.
Yeah, heaven forbid the government try to improve the lives of people. That's so evil. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Take money from other people? When are we gonna do it? Yesterday.
Yeah, they're taking money from us. The government is coming in and trying to say that they know what's better.
But taxes, it's how we fund a government though. It's how we fund for our social programs. Like, yeah, paying taxes sucks, of course, but it's a.
We live in the future. Is there any reason why there can't be a GoFundMe for public school systems?
Well, clearly, I mean, there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that now.
I mean, there is. There's, the government stopping somebody from doing that.
No, there's nothing stopping from people doing that now. We have private schools. That's the thing.
No, I'm not talking about private schools. I'm talking about public schools that are publicly funded through GoFundMe.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, there's
some
a
other crowdsourcing.
yeah, I mean, there's a reason why is a private school much better than a public school? I mean,
Well, that all
usually
depends.
Well,
Because
they
there
get
are
better
private
funding,
schools that are
because
much
of private
worse.
schools, they get grants from like, you know, corporations, and public school they're
No.
funded by property taxes. I'm explaining to you how it works.
well, I'm
My
saying like
public school was funded by property taxes, and it wasn't funded that well because lucrative scheming by people was the best way of putting it lightly.
My property taxes literally doubled because some asshole decided we needed a train service. I'm not joking.
Alright, you guys want to move on to another topic? What's this video? Andrew Yang on Universal Basic Income.
yeah, I mean, this is the guy who kind of might agree. Right, more money will fix everything. So this is
Sure, I'll watch that.
this is Andrew Yang
Okay,
on.
Dreamer, I have a question though. If more money is not the solution, then why is it that states like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, what's that other state? You know, the Democratic states, Washington State, do pretty well, but then like the southern state, the Bible Belt state, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas have like so much poverty then. I know you're gonna say California because that's your go-to thing, but like really though, the Democratic states, the one with like more generous social programs, actually have less crime, have, you know, how do you say it? Better GDP, like they're doing a lot better than the more Republican, the more libertarian in principle states.
I mean, I don't have an answer to that. I just think that
Oh, yeah, it's
I mean, if
almost like social programs actually aren't that bad of a thing.
Oh yeah, what about San Francisco, where there's literally needles all over the streets and a bunch of druggies that people are too afraid
Not
to be
everywhere
there.
with social programs gonna be great, I admit it. You know?
But what was that about libertarian states and social states doing so much better than libertarian states?
Okay, but you're giving me
Or
like
do,
one
or do you want
outlier.
to want to suck your thumb up on
But
that
I
one?
just mentioned like 5 states. You're pointing me to like one city. I just mentioned like 5 states.
Well, I pointed. We can give an example of California, Florida.
Florida
and
is
San
Republican.
Francisco.
Florida's Republican.
Florida has a lot of social programs, though, especially
No, we
for the
don't.
old
We don't have a
folks.
state income though. Our social programs are a joke.
Have you seen
tourism
the amount of
is-
Yeah, thank
social
God.
programs for old people there are in Florida? It's literally that's part of the stereotype of Florida being the place old people go to die. 'Cause there's so
Also,
much fucking shit for old people there.
Autism does not good monetization make.
sure.
Okay.
I don't have a specific answer for that. I just think that if all of the government, anything with government related, the VA, I mean, have you ever gone? I'm sure you've gone to the DMV. It's just not the best efficient run way. Usually, anything that's privatized is gonna perform. But
Yeah, because there's money behind it.
If it's privatized, there has to be competition. If it's privatized and there's a monopoly, it's even worse than if the government is doing it,
right,
Well, let me
which is
give you the
usually the
example of
case.
Let me give you an example of a government service that we all use and actually works quite well. The United States Postal Service, because the United States Postal Service, you know, it's
Did not
required that
actually work that
everywhere-
well
You
until
mean
the
all
introduction
those
of
you
places
mean all
like
those
Amazon,
bombs that got
so-
found that were delivered to several different left-wing political candidates that took the U.S. Postal Service
Or you know, the
forever to
Ryerson
discover?
incident.
Oh yeah, that too.
or the fact that they weren't considered that productive of service until introduction of other companies that actually countered them because capitalism.
Or it
Because
gets even worse because
Yeah.
Amazon is milking the shit out of them because they're doing it for the last mile.
okay, but because of the United States
The post
Postal
office
Service,
sucks.
everywhere in the United States.
You're just gonna ignore those points.
Hold on though. But can I make my point then? I'm saying it's perfect though. But I'm just saying though, like, because the United States Postal Service, literally anywhere in the United States that you live, you're gonna get your package delivered to. Under a privatized system, that's not guaranteed. There's no money if you're living somewhere like that's very secluded.
Can I attack your argument for a second?
Sure.
Because you're specifically saying packages. And so I'm going to assume that you're going to say Amazon. So Amazon only uses the postal service for the last mile or to the closest post office. So basically what happens is Amazon will buy whatever they can for a warehouse that's as close to the major post office everywhere. That's how that works. So what happens is Amazon makes a delivery directly to the post office that's closest to where it's being delivered to.
Right.
So you can't just say, oh yeah, this fucking package came from all over the country. It's like, no, it didn't. It came from like less than half an hour away from here, which is the entire reason why they're really actually looking into automating it with drones and the possibility of doing that, because to them it's actually a cheaper alternative to paying the US government at a loss, because the
Right.
government is being paid at a loss to hawk packages for Amazon. You know that, I know that, everybody knows that, the government knows that, and they're still doing it. And so that's also operating at a loss for Amazon because of how inefficient that is. Because Amazon thinks it's like, dude, I could do this with 4 motors and 4 fucking computer fans, make it faster.
And just compare the post office to the privatized systems such as UPS or FedEx. I mean, which one? What would you rather use, post office or those?
Well, see, the thing about that is those operate in competition with each other, and they operate in not competition with U.S. Postal Service. Therefore, what ends up happening is the majority of people, like regular-ass people that want to ship something over a distance, they operate over U.S. Postal Service. Meanwhile, businesses operate over UPS or FedEx because of the greater insurance options, because that's what they're catering to. That's the market that they're catering to. FedEx and UPS, they cater to businesses because, well, it's easier to deal with an insurance company because they've got lawyers that they're paying for.
Sure.
So the entire thing is a goddamn stupid clusterfuck that, well, honestly, probably couldn't operate any better given the circumstances. I don't know. I really don't know.
Right.
I mean, see, the thing is, here's what we're dealing with in Canada. So here's what happened in Canada. In Canada, we've got the Canadian Postal Service, and we've got a brand new fucking CEO who's fucking... Oh, it gets even better, because you want to know what the goddamn CEO of the Canadian Postal Service is? Deepak Chopra.
What?
Not a joke.
No, you're
Different guy. Different guy. Different
Okay.
guy with the same goddamn name.
Oh, okay, that's
So-
that's okay.
Yes, that's what we have to deal with. We have to deal with the fact that the CEO of the goddamn Canadian Postal Service is the same exact fucking name of a goddamn internet goddamn garbage healer fucking retard famous person. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, it's horrifying. Why? Because he's also brilliant. So here's what happened. So here's what happened in Canada specifically, because Deepak Chopra, the brand new head of the Canadian Postal Service, had to deal with a horrifying prescient factor in the fact that all the labor for the Canadian Postal Service is unionized, and it costs a lot of money because the labor is the main driving factor in fucking mailing packages in Canada. And our postage rates are kind of high and annoying and horrifying. And this motherfucker wants to look good for the fucking 6 months that he planned to be here. Because this motherfucker planned to be here for 6 months, made a profit, and then fucking peace out. Because that's how everybody that's cutthroat like that operates. So here's what he did. He locked out everybody. He locked out the unions. He shut all the doors, had everybody lock them. And then here's what the unions did wrong. They showed up to work one morning, found that the doors were locked, and they formed a picket line. It's like, oh, why are you picketing a locked door? Yeah, now it looks like they're protesting.
Right.
Yeah. Congratulations. Now they've got to fight an uphill battle because, well, these guys actually really wanted to make sure that the people that were being hired for Postal Service work, which is kind of horrifyingly grotesque, were paid reasonable amounts. Well, the answer is you can't do that because you're fighting an uphill battle because nobody's getting their mail anymore, and everybody thinks you're protesting it. So everybody thinks you're the ones who shut down. The answer is no, they locked the doors on us. Well, it's like 4 days later, it's like, okay, we give in. So all the people that were already hired, they're hired for union rates, union benefits, and, well, now there is a large group of people that are being hired for substandard rates. They have substandard benefits. They have substandard work agreements, and they're getting the shit beat out of them. They work for 2 months and then they quit because it's that bad of a job. They can't keep people in that job because of how bad it is, because of how low the pay is, because of how much everything sucks, because, well, the unions aren't operating in this because they can't operate in this.
So the point is the government sucks.
Not necessarily, no. In this case, specifically, yes, because, well, Princess Trudon is like, can you make the postal service cost a little bit less? Because I want to go do hookers and blow. And the answer to that is, yes, I can do that because I'm a cutthroat bastard and I'm actually really good as a CEO. And so he did just that. I mean, it would be nice if somebody could, like, fucking on-chain him and use him for some fucking good somewhere better.
Okay.
But that's not what happened.
Let's move on to something else. But let me just ask Streamer one question. Can you name me
Is that
one
yours? Is this your stream?
Huh? This is for Wrench of the Dreamer.
Is this your stream?
No.
Okay, then why are you saying let's move on?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm the co-host, though.
Are you the co-host, though?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, we just want to keep like topics fresh and moving everything. So yeah, what was your question, Classy, to me?
No, I'm just gonna say, like, can you name like an example of a good libertarian society working out well?
The United States.
We're not libertarian. We have a mixed economy.
Yeah, but like
1776.
The more we were birthed off libertarian principles, and the more we, strive towards that, the better. The less government we have, usually the better. I mean, so that's all I'll say for that.
Okay.
So, but let's take a look at this guy. He says, Andrew Yang, he says on universal basic income,
Sure.
and this is what.
Let's watch that.
Let's
If
take
enough
a
Americans come together, raise our hands, and say, yes, we want universal basic income, then we can make it happen in 2021, and it will be the first thing I do as president. Hello, I'm Andrew Yang, and I'm running for president to implement universal basic income in response to this incredible transition we're going through.
Hey!
Universal basic income is a policy where every citizen gets a certain amount of money every month, regardless of their work status or anything else going in their lives. Under my plan, every American adult between 18 and 64 will receive $1,000 a month, free and clear, no questions asked, doesn't matter if you're working, not, what your income is, $1,000 per adult per month. We're going through the greatest technological and economic shift in our history, and we need to accelerate our society and government to keep pace with the challenges of 2020. We've already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and we're about to do the same thing to workers in retail, truck driving, call centers, fast food restaurants, and on throughout the economy. So this plan, the $1,000 per month plan, was studied by the Roosevelt Institute, which projected that it would grow the economy by $2.5 trillion per year and would create 4.5 million new jobs. $12,000 a year is enough to push an American up to just about the poverty line, which is a little bit more than $12,000 per year. So there's like all of the big, oh, it's going to grow the economy, it's going to create millions of jobs, it's going to create all of these new businesses, which it totally will.
This
But
is just
I'm
weird
more
to
excited
get
about
that
the
ass
fact
quiet
it's going
in
to help
here.
the single mother.
What'd you say?
Can you not hear it, Sunshine?
No, it's just like we weren't talking or saying anything.
I don't think he's in the Watch Together video, actually.
Oh, you're
Oh,
not
really?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
And all of a sudden-
I'm in the middle trying to see if I can get the controller to work.
Okay.
For,
well,
okay,
it's
never
'cause
mind
we're
that.
watching a
Ones,
video about, the universal basic income.
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, personally, I don't know too much about the UBI. I mean, it's an interesting idea, though. My worried I'm worried about how it's gonna be funded and how it's gonna be implemented. But I know that there have been some experiments. I believe in Sweden, Finland, I think even Canada. I think
Yes, and the Canadian one was shut down, and there's been a horrifying backlash to that by people who weren't necessarily involved in that. Also, there has been a bit of a horrifying backlash by people who were involved in it because, well, they had a job at the time, they quit their job, and then now they have to go look for work again.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying I'm necessarily for it, though, but I guess a lot of people bring this up as it's a sort of answer to the automation problems, because all these, like, factory jobs, they're gonna disappear at some point, so what are people gonna do? Is everyone just gonna become, you know, business, just create a small business? I mean, that's nice. I would love to see that, but I think that's a bit, I don't know.
Is that not what we're doing here with this, you know, podcast?
I mean, we don't have any patrons.
Yeah, we broke.
Yeah,
I mean,
broke.
I'm not exactly sure how this will work. I mean, this is all kind of how in theory it will work. It's like, oh, this is gonna add this much money economy, and this is gonna help this. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you can add money, but I mean, you know that who knows that's gonna what that's gonna do to inflation. So
Sure,
I mean,
like, I'm not saying like this is like a perfect solution. Like, you're gonna have, you know, issues like how we're gonna fund this. We're gonna have to tax the hell out of people. You know, there might be there's definitely gonna be an inflation for sure, but there already is inflation, right?
So,
but like, I don't know, like, what's another answer to the automation problem though? Like, what are we gonna do when like all the you know, labor jobs, all the like McDonald's cashiers are replaced by robots and whatnot? Like, what are people gonna do?
As a Canadian, can I answer this for a second?
Sure.
go ahead. Yes.
We were running an experiment on this. We were running a universal basic income experiment on it.
Yeah.
But we couldn't afford it. We honestly couldn't afford it.
Just one.
Sure.
And so the thing about that is we couldn't afford to run this experiment to begin with. And the people who wanted to run this experiment were ideologically driven because they were ideologically brainwashed. And so what ended up happening is they pushed this forward. And the same people that were horrifyingly ideologically driven also committed a bunch of other horrifying things. Like letting a convicted child predator write sex education curriculum for people under the age of 15. That was a thing that happened in Ontario. This was the same province that the initiative was supposed to run. The answer is we couldn't afford that. We couldn't afford both of these things because, well, the previous Premier of Ontario did a kind of a horrible job. And, well, it turns out the next Premier ran that shit even further into the ground. And it gets to happen. It's entirely possible that the lawsuit that happens with the basic income goes forward, in which the people that were granted the test income get forced to continue to be paid that. And I would like to see how that continues, because the answer to that is I don't know. It might generate good science. I do say that we probably can't afford it. That's
Well, people like Elon Musk, for example, says that we are going to get to the point with automation. So many jobs, so many things are going to be automated. Driving, truck drivers. So many things are going to be automated that we're going to get to who knows. We might get to a place where we can't afford it, and it's I don't know if that's a good thing for society. I don't know if it's a bad thing.
The answer to that is I don't know. It all depends. Right. It all depends on what rules we're operating on. Are we operating on the same corrupt rules that we're operating now? Are there going to be new corrupt rules that we're operating on then? It all depends. Are we going to be operating on some actually clean, legal, pure, fucking puritanical, fucking legal shenanigans in which, well, it turns out we actually just arrest all the criminals and we have reasonable laws that reasonably criminalize reasonable things that should not be done? The answer to that is I don't know. That's not where we're at. We have unreasonable. We have laws that criminalize things unreasonably. We have unreasonable effects of those criminalizations on society. We have reasonable people that have been driven to crime that should be punished for those crimes being unpunished for those crimes. We have unreasonable people doing unreasonably giant amounts of crime that are also going unpunished. And the answer to that is I don't know. What do we do? What are we dealing with?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know how society is going to look like when that finally is implemented. So it's going to be interesting to sit back and watch. So
that all depends. How long can you sit back and watch? What do you do when the mob is at your front door? What do you do when the mob? You're Tucker Carlson, and the mob is at your fucking front door screaming, "We know where you live. It's not safe to sleep here at night," and they're kicking in your front door.
Well, that's what is different between Americans and Canadians. We got the Second Amendment. We bust out the guns, I guess, right?
They had the Second Amendment where that happened. Or they had a facsimile of the Second Amendment where that happened. It happened in New York. They can't conceal carry there. They can't reasonably defend their homes there. They can't reasonably own guns there. Do you have any idea what it takes to fucking own a gun in New York State?
I don't.
You should look that up. It's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, maybe that. You know, I don't know. I don't know too much about the Tucker Carlson situation, but I mean, I guess isn't that the point of the Second Amendment? I mean, you can get a gun and have it at your house at New York State, right? I mean,
that all depends. And the answer to that is no.
Okay.
You need a license for that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
The answer is
universal.
I can imagine what's going to happen, and I don't like imagining that because, well, it's fucking stupid. It's stupid and it's horrifying, and it leads to more bloodshed. I mean, there's already been more bloodshed than I can imagine. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's been a motherfucker walking around with a fucking bicycle lock beating people over the head that he disagrees with.
Yeah, I mean, that is the world we're living in now. So
not only that, but he got arrested for it, he got tried for it, and he got released for it. He is out of fucking prison.
Right. At least
it gets even fucking worse because the goddamn lawyer for that guy literally caused a riot that caused the National Guard to shoot students.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, now you do. It's like new level. How deep is this puddle? You think it's raining. You look at all the puddles on the ground. It's well, I'm sitting here with a scuba mask on, sitting in it.
Yeah, the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper. It's true. I wanted to show you guys this video here, unless there was some final thoughts about that.
Sure, why not? This is your stream.
This is so apparently Jan Singer, the CEO of Victoria, is stepping down after some controversy. So let's take a look at this.
1 week after Victoria's Secret Chief Marketing Officer Ed Razek made problematic statements about transgender and plus-size models, The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that the brand's lingerie CEO, Jan Singer, is stepping down. Singer joined the company in September 2016. Despite her efforts, Victoria's Secret has faced commercial failure in recent years, with same-store sales dropping 5% in 2018. Amid the rise of lingerie brands,
wait, isn't the sexism because they're getting a female CEO ousted?
I know, right? Well, the main thing about this, I don't know if you guys heard, there was like some...
I heard her, she's a TERF. Yes, I've heard about all of this garbage. It's fucking retarded.
Yeah, people complaining that there isn't plus size or transgender models on the runway, and it's like, I mean, why are we living in a world now where people are demanding what, companies have in their, a company is supposed to, they're gonna cater to what they want to put. They're gonna, I mean, that's their choice. If someone wants to create a plus size modeling brand, they can go out and do it.
There already are though. I mean, Hanes.
Yeah, exactly.
And like other of these underwear companies, they already have these like plus size model things. Can we have like just one store with attractive looking women as models? Is that too much to ask? Come on.
Do you even watch
The one store where all
I don't
men
even
just want to
watch
like
any of the trash.
one day.
Wait, sorry, what do you say, Legan?
I said the one store where all men just say to themselves, one day I will go in there.
No.
You don't go to Victoria's Secret?
That's kind of fate for most
Okay, I'm
men.
19 and I currently do not have a girlfriend. The last one I had was in Denmark, so.
Oh, okay.
Whenever
Seriously,
you're
use a youngin. It'll happen. It'll happen.
my guy, once you reach a certain age, you'll start looking at the extra large shirts and be like, "That's my future."
Kill yourself.
I'm a twig. I don't know if that's even
No,
biologically
there actually
possible.
are some
You'll
products
find
for
out.
men.
You'll find out.
In Victoria's Secret, they actually have like a line of perfume for men, but that's pretty much it. Everything else.
I also found out that the people who say, "Oh, you should eat kale and stuff," are actually assholes because kales cause thyroids to develop faster.
Oh yeah,
Oh shit.
kale's horrible for your thyroids.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that sucks.
Do you have a source for that? Because I fucking love kale.
I don't know.
Well,
I
let me
heard
look
Steven
it
Crowder
up.
said it.
I was actually
He's the
looking up
most
a list
reliable
of
source of
things.
news.
I was looking up a list of various health conditions caused by various things just for shits and giggles because I like to know all the possible ways I'm going to possibly die.
Hey.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, yes.
There's
a
a
whole
lot.
lot.
So kale's actually bad for you.
To some degree, yes.
Yeah.
That's
Kale
hilarious.
causes thyroid problems.
I mean, everything's bad for you in some ways.
Let's see here. There's an Eating Well article about it.
Oh,
Copy
great.
link.
Eating well.
But,
Eating well caters to fat shenanigans, by the way.
No, hon. And then there's endocrineweb.com. I'm just copy pasting everything.
Alright.
do you guys want to finish this video or move on to something?
Yeah, let's finish it here.
Sure.
And gender non-conforming customers such as Third Love and
I
Rihanna's
just came here
Savage
'cause I
Fenty
saw
line.
people on
Victoria's
this
Secret
and
has
I'm
faced
still
mounting
Googling
criticism for its
fucking-
lack of inclusivity.
Oh, raw kale.
Razik
That
sparked
doesn't
outrage
matter.
after
Doesn't
explaining in
matter.
a recent interview
I
with
cook the
Vogue
shit out of
why
my
he
kale.
doesn't cast trans or plus-size models in the Victoria's Secret fashion show, which filmed last week and will air on ABC on December 2nd. According to
Yeah,
Razik,
if you
whose
don't cook
response
the shit
included
out
the
of it,
use of
then,
the outdated and offensive word
Actually, I also hate
transsexual,
people who
trans
don't
and plus-size
cook
women do
spinach.
not
Like,
represent
raw
the quote
spinach just has
fantasy that
almost no
Victoria's
flavor.
Secret
We're playing a video. Yes, sorry, I should
Oh,
have told
sorry.
you that. That's alright.
So people got mad because the CEO or the other, I guess.
Hold on, let me clarify. The CEO was accused of saying that trans people weren't allowed on the runway.
Oh, so he or she didn't even say that they were not.
Well, the point is, there is no concrete evidence of this, as far as I know. I could be wrong.
No, okay.
Well,
From
no.
my understanding.
Well, according to this video, he did say that he said the word transsexuals don't represent the male fantasy or something like that, or like attractiveness, and then that's when people got more upset too. So,
Yeah, the trap community, the people into traps got really mad.
Fuck
Right.
traps. Traps are gonna do what traps are gonna do.
yeah,
Though I unironically want to see a trap runway, not fucking RuPaul's Drag Race, because all of them are clearly fucking men. I'm talking about traps, like really sexy, thin.
Dude, I
fat
fucking
boys,
love
dude.
traps.
Same here, dude.
Degeneracy.
A little bit. A little bit.
I'm sorry, but if you've never wanted to fuck a nice tight boy pussy, there's something wrong with you. And it is at that point that I get the stream demonetized.
Okay,
It's
we're
only
gonna
gay
make
if balls
Legan
touch.
uncomfortable, so...
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
only
right.
gay if balls touch.
Yes.
Listen,
It's
if
wrong
there's
for me to
one
want
thing,
to
if
biologically propagate my species. How
Say
dare
no,
you?
no, it's all good, it's all good. But
Wait,
well,
Logan
one word of
Paul is a
advice.
flat earther?
so yeah, so
what?
Not surprised.
we're moving on to the next topic. This is kind of the whole reason I just stream that because
Can I nope? I would like to nope. I would like to entirely nope out of everything that's Logan Paul related because that guy is so. Logan Paul is Marilyn Manson from the 90s in 2018.
Wait, what?
you think so? What does that mean?
So back in the early fucking 90s, there used to be a bunch of fucking garbage where it's like Marilyn Manson had his ribs removed so he could suck his own dick.
Oh, I heard that.
Relatable.
Well, so the point is, it was
I could
rumors.
unironically
It was rumors that were spread out of edginess of the media in itself, and that drove the popularity of Marilyn Manson through the fucking roof because, well, it turns out he was also a competent artist. Logan Paul is not a competent artist, and he's trying to literally do the same thing, but in 2018. It's fucking garbage, and I refuse to support it, and I actively choose to subvert it in any way that I can.
Sure. Well, the reason I pulled this video is because I'm kind of obsessed with the flat Earth movement, and just not obsessed, but like I just fascinated with like this is kind of like the growing conspiracy, and it's like
I can understand that, and so like. I can understand your obsession for this. Like, how can anybody believe something that is so blatantly wrong?
It's because of like people. When you really look into it, because I looked into it a lot. I mean, the reason they believe in it is just because they've been
silenced.
They distrust any science. They distrust NASA. You know, because of like it all stems.
Man, how are you gonna prove science? You gotta prove science with more science. Science is evil.
It stems back from NASA and like the moon landings and stuff. Which I mean that's a whole nother rabbit hole, the moon landings. But because of a lot of them believe that NASA faked the moon landings and everything. NASA shouldn't be trusted, and everything behind NASA, photos they release. Which is true. A lot of photos they do release of Earth is CGI composites, and because of that, they don't believe it's like there's no real pictures of the Earth.
Well, so the other thing about that is a lot of the images that they release from the majority of the rovers that are on other planets right now, they're edited in certain ways, and early on in the Mars rover. I don't want to say production because in the early on in the Mars rover fucking timeline, early on in the history, there we go, that's the word. Early on in the history of the Mars rover, basically in all of the pictures that were published by NASA, they left a chroma chart visible in some of them. And so it as I'm a camera fag by hobby, so I understand a lot about photography. And so a chroma chart is a chart that has known color samples in known areas so that you can color correct an image for whatever thing you might need. And so there's a reasonable reason for NASA to include a chroma chart on their fucking rovers, because it's like it's a completely different atmosphere, completely different planet. We want to know what shit actually looks like on these other planets. Well, it turns out that early on in the majority of certain rovers' timelines, histories, they left the chroma chart visible in some of their published photos. And so a couple of keen observers for that looked at that and said, that's not how that chart's supposed to look. And so they color corrected for what that chart is supposed to look like. And it changed the color of the atmosphere to less red and more something that looks kind of normal.
In other words, they Photoshop a photo to make it look according to their ideas.
Well, hold on. I want to clarify that because their ideas that's an incorrect statement, because you don't understand. You completely disregarded my entire opening monologue when I said what a chroma chart is. Do you know what a chroma chart is?
Kinda.
I just explained what it fucking was, and you just fucking disregarded that. Kill yourself.
It's not a big deal, man.
Sounds
It is a
about
big deal because it's a major fucking part of this fucking thing that I'm explaining. Because the pictures that were released by NASA were the wrong color, according to the chroma chart that they left in the images that they were publishing. So they published the Mars is red, the atmosphere is fucking orange colored, and they left a fucking here's what red should look like, here's what green should look like, here's what blue should look like, here's what cyan should look like, here's what fuchsia should look like chart in the fucking picture. It's like, wait a second. And so somebody color corrected for that. And it's like, wait a second, this is kind of normal and gray. But this is cool nonetheless because they weren't trying to say nobody went to Mars for this. It's just like, God damn it, why are you trying to pull this marketing bullshit on this? We believe that you went to Mars. But this is how it actually looked like. Did something else fuck up? Why are you doing this, guys?
Yeah, and NASA and, you know, anything in NASA history of like editing. I mean, there was that proven photograph, you know, like a long time ago, they tried to pass a photograph that they released in a newspaper as like actual footage of someone in space, but it was actually like test footage instead. So the whole moon landing in NASA has a lot of background of like weird stuff. So that's kind of what stems and kind of was the birth and the origins of flat Earth and why people believe in it. But it is kind of the fastest growing conspiracy.
Well, so the thing is, I think that's actually not necessarily true because the majority of reasonable people that were capable of understanding, it's like, okay, that looks kind of weird if the red planet isn't actually red. We need to make the red planet look red, so they keep giving us money. I mean, like, so I'm going to fucking DM you an image where it's entirely reasonable because this is that. It's literally that. It's like they literally put specific and known values of red, green, blue, and cyan on a sundial with a chromatic chart saying here's the entire scale of gray, specifically to calibrate their cameras. It's like, here is what is supposed to be used to color calibrate the cameras, and it looks wrong. You did wrong here.
Right.
And so what happened is somebody went into Photoshop and did it correctly and then applied that to the rest of the image, and it's like, okay, it's slightly less red.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't mean it's like, oh, this took place on Earth. It's like, no, this still happened on Mars, but like, please stop lying to us about how red Mars is.
Yeah, and this is a just long line of instance though of NASA editing and doing photo editing. Like I said, as far as when it comes to when you speak to a lot of flat earthers, a lot of it does stem distrust of NASA because of things like this with the Mars and changing color. The moon landings is the major one as well.
Say, hey man, I want to come on.
I just think this is interesting.
Landings actually happened, and there's no way around that.
No, I understand, but there is. I mean, the conspiracy exists. There's people the people believe that it didn't happen, and when you, I can see why people would believe that. There is a lot of weird stuff, you know, where they try to. There was proven some stuff that they tried to fake. You know, when it came to photographs, like I said, like they tried to release a photograph of this guy.
Yes.
Guy saying it was in space, but it was actually edited, a photo edited of them, like test footage in like a studio and stuff. That had nothing to do with the moon landings, but as an example, NASA just trying to do dumb shit and then people actually looked into it and found out. But this is why the flat Earth movement is. If you look at, I had him on the show about a year ago. Red Pill Philosophy. His whole channel now is about flat Earth, and he's trying to like
say
fucking
red pill.
Fucking feedback loops. Jesus Christ.
Wait, did someone say red pill?
Yeah, red pill philosophy. Yeah, so he's become obsessed with like flat Earth and trying to show how, you know, it's a conspiracy.
Well, it's because, you know,
and
the whole MGTOW thing wasn't doing his bidding, so yeah.
There's phases.
Hold on one fucking second, because I can completely understand somebody who isn't entirely sane being accosted by classy liberal, just like tipping them over the edge to believing that we didn't go to the moon, the Earth is flat. Because I can fully understand that now. Jesus Christ! Stop making things worse. Seriously, stop it. Stop making things. Why are you making things worse?
What do you mean?
Well, based on having experienced classy liberals' autism, in that it's happened here in this stream specifically, in this stream right now, I can understand how that would push somebody who is fragile in their sanity and basically unwilling to give up on certain things that would lead to a horrifying feedback loop that would just drive them deeper into the flat Earth shenanigans.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Nice
So, and that's what I'm saying. Please stop making things worse. Why are you making things worse?
Well, I so
you're cutting out, sorry. Dreamer, do you want to like leave Discord and just come back very quick, because you were cutting out a bit?
Yeah, one moment.
Yeah.
So I want to get deeper in the rabbit hole, because now there was the annual Flat Earth, and Logan Paul made an appearance. So it's kind of weird. Out of all people, you would never think that of Logan Paul make an appearance at a Flat Earth conference. So let's take a look at here what he said and get it.
Hey man, I want to come. I want to learn.
So
it's with great pleasure that I'm
so
going to introduce.
it's with
great
great
pleasure
Logan,
that I'm
going
going
to say that
Logan,
I'm not going to
Paul.
listen to what he has to say. I don't want to hear what he has to say. So that's
brother.
okay.
incredible.
And I do want to give a special shout out to my friend Mike for being.
Sorry, there's like another echo coming from my side. I don't know if that's a video, because I don't want there to be like an echo in the stream. If you want, we can just end it here, because we already talked about Flat Earth. But yeah, the point is, Logan Paul's not the smartest guy. So.
I don't hear an echo. I mean,
I don't hear an echo either.
I hear it from my side, and I'm worried because I'm streaming it from my side. I'm worried that the stream is hearing it as well.
Let me play the video, and then I'll listen on the other end. I don't think there's.
This is the equivalent of the Twitch chat saying, "I can't hear you. Why are you muted?"
All right, let's just power through it, classy. This will be the final video. Let's just take a look at here. See.
Okay.
Being the catalyst to all this. Shout out Mike. I love you. He's one of my best friends. So I consider myself a man of truth. Someone who hates being ignorant. I try my best to avoid being ignorant, and that's why I decided to come here. Because if I'm gonna do this, and if I'm gonna put my name out there, I want to know the facts, right? The fact that we haven't been.
So this is kind of like a common theme with flat earthers, is that they're wanting to be open-minded and look into the truth and everything. So
that's just feedback material. It's like everybody here believes the right truth, the real truth. We are the forefront of realization.
Yeah, it's like a religion.
Have to understand that the motherfucker speaking at this time literally gets paid to say stupid shit in front of giant crowds.
What? Right, I understand. Yeah,
that guy's entire purpose of existence is to make pretend drama and convince giant crowds of people to pay attention to him. And then somebody who had no other reasonable expectation for anything let him do that in their crowd of people. What's happening is Logan Paul is creating Logan Paul fans out of the flat Earth community, where he wins, they lose.
Cool.
Right.
That's it. It's nothing more, nothing less.
Let's see what he has to say.
I don't care.
Interested.
It's not going to be anything different than that, because is Logan Paul a master fucking theorist? Does he understand things beyond anybody else's reasonable understanding of nature?
No. I just think it's funny. So let's. I want to take a look here and see what's going to be his point here.
Like it would be really interesting just to see what would happen if like everybody just started spamming at Logan Paul. What's the square root of -1?
Yeah, I mean he'll probably bust out his vlog camera and just start dancing. I don't know what he would do. That'd probably be it.
Been to the moon, what, over 50 years? The fact that the moon emits its own light. Some of the best scientists, the globe heads, is that what you guys call it?
Oh, is this a new video? I'm gonna unmute it now.
Some of their best scientists can't explain gravity. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye. At the end of the day, do they even know? And so I wanted to come here and explore for myself, do my best to keep an open mind.
Becca's entire fucking
you guys,
everything is cancer. What do you expect? What do you expect?
Well, he's saying the typical flat Earth comments where it's like we haven't been back to the moon in 50 years.
Women are oppressed.
He's saying, does the moon emit its own light?
Why isn't there 50-50 representation on CEO boards?
Right. You know, he's kind of espousing the typical flat Earth comments and everything. So, you know, it is kind of like a cultish thing, and you know, I'm just kind of fascinated. I'm kind of fascinated with the whole flat Earth movement and why it's growing and stuff. And
well, it's growing the same reason why fucking literal Nazis are growing.
Which is.
Well, so fuck, I can't remember which literal Nazi said this. But his response was, "Hey, left, please keep doing what you're doing. You're literally feeding us supporters." He literally said that. I can't remember if it was. I can never fucking remember the names because I never fucking bothered to learn them. David Duke. No, not David Duke. Maybe it was David Duke. Was it David? I don't know.
And I don't know if David Duke is even considered a neo-Nazi, although his beliefs are basically aligned with them at this point.
At this point, I don't fucking know either, because probably if you're saying David Duke isn't a Nazi, he's just in line with the Nazis, then it might not have been this guy. Because as far as I can tell, the person that I was told said this because, well, the person I watched said this was, you know, pretty anti-Semitic and pretty National Socialist. Right. It's like, yes, please keep feeding us supporters. Please keep doing everything that you're doing, because everything that you're doing is just cannibalizing yourselves, and you're converting all of your supporters into our supporters. Please keep doing what you're doing. It's only making us stronger. It's only making you weaker. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Because as soon as I saw that, it's like, Jesus Christ, this is only going to get worse. And, well, fuck, that was almost 3 years ago, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's only gotten worse, but I think you guys give a little too much attention to the whole alt-right people and neo-Nazis and stuff. I just think,
heaven forbid we call out the alt-right. Heaven forbid we call out their bullshit, you know?
Just ignore them. Just ignore them.
Oh, yeah, just ignore them. Do the Sargon approach. They grow larger.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. Because when you're saying, oh, just ignore the alt-right, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. That's not what I'm trying to say.
But that's what Dreamer is saying, though.
Well, no, hold on. Because what I'm trying to say is, classy liberal, I am saying that you directly are contributing to feeding the alt-right and contributing literally to the feeding of Nazis.
Oh my
Because of how... No, you are very black and white. You're very autistic about this. And anybody you interact with that could conceivably be brought to a reasonable ground has to interact with you. Well, their interaction with you burns them out to the point where it's like, I don't want to deal with this. Every leftist is going to be like that. And presto changeo, they end up further to the right. How far to the right? The answer to that is I don't know. That all depends.
Damn.
Oh my God,
Well,
Surface.
this has literally happened before, literally in Weimar, Germany. This is literally the volcanization of Weimar, Germany in North America.
So classy is.
I think you had too much to drink.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm still sober. I can still stand. I can still squat. But anyways.
Jesus, man, what a takedown.
You don't understand. I've had to deal with this motherfucker on a bunch of servers that... Well, actually, no, it's just one server. No, 2 servers. This motherfucker's fucking autism. No, it's just... I have no patience for fucking internet autism anymore. And
Okay, Surface, but you don't think like certain people, like they have these sort of... Like you're saying I see things black and white. You don't think some of these people have a confirmation bias where they don't want to admit that certain...
I think you have the most horrifying confirmation bias out of anybody that you talk
No,
to.
because I used to be a lot more libertarian though. Like I changed a lot of my views actually. Okay, I used to buy into
Yeah,
the
you
race
became a
realism
cuck.
stuff. Yeah, no, yeah, I became a
Sentient,
cuck.
stop. That's not helping.
Fair enough.
You're literally doing the same thing that fucking classy liberals doing, and that doesn't help either.
I haven't insulted anyone tonight unless you count when I said you had too much to drink, but you've called me autistic so many times, like I haven't insulted you not once.
Tonight.
Tonight, yeah. Or ever for that matter.
Dang. I mean, I that's the whole dynamic of the show, is that I am very extremely opposite politically to classy liberal, and you know, he's a classical liberal, and you know, that's why
Classical liberal.
I am a classical liberal. I just acknowledge that, hey, not every single social program is that bad.
well, yeah, and that's
Okay. No, that's reasonable.
I'm against $15 minimum wage. All right. I have a few libertarian beliefs myself.
Actually, out of curiosity, are you against it being set at $15, or are you against minimum wage itself?
I mean, it's kind of unreasonable to get rid of minimum wage. We have to have like some sort of standard. If companies want to pay their employees $15 an hour, that's fine. I just don't think there should be laws to enforce them to, because they can create an inflation. And it's not, I don't know, just like historically speaking, price fixing and artificial wages just don't work well in the economy.
Isn't that literally what other than $15 an hour minimum wage is? Like, what's the current minimum wage where you are now?
$8.05. Well, $7.25, I think, in the state of Florida.
Okay.
isn't it 8.25?
Is it $8.25? It might have gone up. I'm not sure. I forgot.
I think it went up a little bit. Yeah.
So, are you against raising the minimum wage, or are you against a minimum wage?
I'm against a minimum wage. I don't think a minimum
I
wage
just
should exist.
think we should have like some sort of standard though. Like you shouldn't just let people pay people some sort of, how do you say? I don't want to use the term wage slavery because then I'm sounding like a socialist, but like some sort of wage that's just unreasonably low.
Wage slavery. Well, hold on one second, because you can use the term wage slavery and not sound like a socialist. It all depends on how well you know the actual terminology of wage slavery, because wage slavery exists outside of socialism.
Sure.
If you're using wage slavery in a term of within the rubric of the cookie cutter definitions of socialism, well, then that's going to be plainly visible to see. You shouldn't shy away from terminology that is an apt descriptor, because wage slavery does exist.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the wages that work dead-end jobs.
That all depends. That all depends on who's running the markets. That all depends. Because
I mean, if anything, you could say I'm more skeptical of the $15 minimum wage if I can see evidence that it works, and I might support it. But other than that, I don't really think it's gonna fix the problem. Cause like I also like a lot of people like to say that like most people who are minimum wage are like single mothers and stuff like that. But you actually like look at the numbers, like it's actually mostly like elderly people and like young people my age and younger.
So there's also an interesting statistic that you glossed over, and that's people that make slightly above minimum wage are staunchly against raising minimum wage.
Yeah, because then it'll negatively impact them. It's gonna, because they're not getting the increase of wage, but it's gonna increase. It's gonna increase the cost of goods.
Making my money. Why are these people who are below me making my money?
Well, it's not just that. It's because then it's gonna raise the cost of goods. So,
see that's not necessarily integrated in the study that was done, where it's like, what do you make? And if you made this much money, and well, actually, so the interesting thing about that is the study that was done, where it's like, how much money do you make? Do you agree with or disagree with increasing the minimum wage to Planck? And the interesting thing about that is all the people that were against raising the minimum wage were within $5 of the minimum wage.
Sure.
That's a large margin, though.
Not really when you're dealing with the fact that the minimum wage is $8.
Well, I mean, like rocket scientists now are getting paid close hourly wage to Starbucks baristas, which is fucking dumb.
That's always beautiful.
Well, that's what happens when you have mandated minimum wages.
True, but also that's Starbucks as well. Target's increasing their company minimum wage.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that absent minimum wage. I'm not saying that some company couldn't say it was like, we're gonna hire fucking people and pay them $100 an hour to fucking make coffees.
If anything, the government shouldn't have a minimum wage. They should have something where I'd say sort of a equal. I hate saying fucking equal pay, but equal pay for equal work. And essentially, if you're doing the same exact job to the same exact standards of your fellow employees, you should get paid a specific
That's what case
wage.
law's for.
Yeah, and that's what quote unquote minimum wage should be, I'd say. Because like, I'm a server and I get paid in tips primarily. In Ohio, they actually have a separate wage for tipped workers. You get paid around $4.15 an hour.
Oh yeah,
that's
The
understandable.
same thing here in Florida. I think it's like $5 something if you're like a tip.
It's like $5, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
When was the last time you tipped a fucking cashier?
Today.
At like a fucking grocery store.
Oh, grocery store.
Well, sometimes I say take the change. Not at a grocery store, never.
When was the
But
last
at a restaurant,
time
I do.
When was the last time you tipped a hydro worker? You know, like a electricity company worker.
Never.
Exactly.
I'm 19. That's my answer.
When's the last time you've had to pay a electricity worker?
Never.
Alright, then that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm 19. That's my answer.
Oh, understandable. The answer is, well, I'm not retarded enough and I do all the fucking wiring in my own house my own way because fuck them all.
But yeah, guys, I think we're gonna end the stream here. It's been a pretty all over the place conversation, but I always appreciate it when we got different guests on the show. I appreciate you guys jumping on.
Yeah, no problem.
Y'all don't have to leave the Discord, but y'all more than welcome to stay. But we're just gonna end the stream here. Thank you guys for joining us tonight for another episode of Revenge of the Dreamer, and we will catch you guys next week. So thank you so much.
All right.
Good night.
And until then, stay classy.